Hey everybody, I am here with Steve, aka Cosam, the person who designed the non-existing but now existing Neptune board, among a lot of other things. So, how are you, Steve?
Oh, great. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you for the work that you do because this is something that, I think a decade ago I was talking to the Retro Roundtable before there was even a Retro Roundtable about doing stuff like this, and they're all like, "Oh, that's too hard. No one's going to do that." And now a bunch of people have, but specifically you have nailed the Neptune board. So that's awesome.
Yeah, this stuff has gotten a lot easier these days. Huh? And just 10 years ago, you probably wouldn't be, you'd be trying to make your own PCBs and stuff. And it just, yeah, it's so much easier now. You can get them made for so little money. You can do a few iterations. All the software is there. Everything works. Yeah. A lot of obstacles have been cleared in the meantime. Yeah.
So, I guess the very quick overview, I'm assuming everybody listening already knows, but just in case, the Sega Neptune was an announced console that had a 32X and a Genesis built in. And it was meant as a stopgap between the Genesis and the Saturn because the Saturn was getting delayed. So they figured, well, maybe this is a cool thing that we could, and if it takes off, maybe we'll stick with it for a while. So it took the 32X and everything combined. And then I think they made a couple of prototypes and then it just fizzled away in place of the Saturn, which all of that stuff was probably the wrong move for Sega anyway, but whatever. So that's
Mhm.
the nerdy significance, cultural significance, and just video game history side of this is very cool. But how did you get started in this project? Do you want to go back to the beginning and kind of talk about how you even got into this?
Mhm. Mhm. Well, the yeah, the very beginning was more about like making reproduction PCBs for existing stuff. So that's sort of where I got started. There was a lot
Mhm.
of guys doing that, and I saw that, and I had a Japanese Mega CD here, and it's
Hmm.
like, hey, I bought that. It never worked, and there was big holes melted into the main board and everything. So I'm like, this is never going to work. Let's see if I can do it. And the schematics for that, so you can just like transcribe the schematics, draw something out, link up all the signals, and yeah, theoretically it should work. And the board does work. There's like I made three different revisions of it, two Japanese ones, one for the Sega CD and the European market. I still don't have a working Mega CD, but these things exist, and I'm assured that they do work. So that's how I really got into it. And then did a couple of PC Engine things, the original PC Engine, the GT or the Turbo Express, the Duo, which was nice. Then one of the regularly gets ruined by leaking caps.
Yes.
Um, and then what triggered me for the Neptune was that Tito Macho
Hmm.
came along with this video, and he was showing how he built it um, using, yeah, I think it's referred to as the Longhorn method. So there's you just get a Genesis 2, and you take pieces off of that, and you hardwire like an actual 32X into it, and if you hook it all up right, it's going to work. It's gonna act and look like a Neptune because the two things are in the same box, right?
Yeah,
And
and it works, but that's kind of a finicky installation. That's not something that
it's
I would expect to still work a
mm,
decade from now, you know?
yeah, yeah. It's yeah. Even if you do it well, it's going to be kind of hairy. There's wires and stuff all over the place, and it yeah, everything sits a little bit proud from where it's meant to be. The cartridge is sticking out a little bit more. It's a little bit, yeah, wobbly. Maybe I've never actually seen one. But I was watching this, so I was like, I'm sure there was schematics for both these things. And how hard could it be? Just put them together and join up the dots. So it's quite naive. Um, so I get these things. I start drawing, and I'm like, oh, and we don't really. It didn't take very long. It's easy to do. It's existing stuff. A couple of mistakes made along the way, as usual. But basically, just yeah, take the two things, line up the cartridge port from one to the main board of the 32X, and see what comes out. And that was, yeah, a couple of days I had that. Took a lot longer to actually lay out the board. Um, Basically traced out the well, it was a PAL Mega Drive 2, scanned that to get the outline where all the holes are and everything. Uh, Stuff like the reset switch, cartridge port that has to be in the right place. Um, and then it was, drawing a whole bunch of lines to connect, pin so many of this one to pin so many of the other one, and keep going. Um, First time it didn't really work out. What often happens is you run out of space. You have to run like 30 lines where only, well, usually 29 are going to fit. If you want 30, 29 will fit, right? And the last one is like, that was, that was challenging. It took, I don't know, a good couple of weeks to do that. Get the first boards out. It was probably a month later, and then a couple of weeks troubleshooting, debugging, with a lot of help. I had a lot of help from the guys at the board folk, Simon and Zexor, like very helpful in this respect. So thanks to them. I don't think
Yeah.
it would probably still be here without them, but it would have took a lot longer for sure. No.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's you get the right people helping as well, so
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's cool
very
to see.
knowledgeable. Yeah, yeah.
So for, I'm by no means an expert in board design, but I do know enough to be dangerous. And I could say with confidence that what you just said was a very, very oversimplification of the whole process, because it's not just connect some lines, because while you physically could do that, then sometimes when these lines, the data lines cross each other, you get interference. Sometimes that means it just won't boot at all because the data gets corrupt on the way. Other times you get audio or video interference. And not only did I not see that in my testing, yours performed very, very well for MD Fourier audio analysis and really good for video as well. And I think you've even kind of taken steps to revise that too. So how, when you were running these things, was it like a shot in the dark, or do you have experience running traces so that you were kind of saying, okay, I can't put these data lines too close to the power or whatever else?
Yeah, I'm kind of paranoid about it. So when I do stuff, I'm like, if it's worth engineering, it's worth over engineering. So I'll put like too much space in between stuff. It was actually a Zuxor, again, a tip to include some internal ground layers
Hmm.
that really help with that. Um, we figured out later it probably wasn't necessary, but even like you have digital circuits in there and also the analog ones for like the audio and video and stuff, and they're routed separately, and they even have their own like cut out pieces of the ground plane so that they're separated as well. So yeah, it was a lot of kind of nitpicky, paranoid work to get it there, and it kind of just worked first try. It was there wasn't anything really major coming out, so it's yeah, partly preparation, partly immensely good luck that it actually performs as well as it does. You know.
That's awesome. And when you were tackling this, I mean, this is one of those things that before Mister, there would have been 1,000 things that people would have been jumping on you, going, "Can you add this? Can you add that? Can you add this?" Can you And now it's because it's basically, there's so many differences in the Sega consoles and so many cool different additions and things like that. So with the ability to do that now, just as a toggle in Mister, it was a little less overboard for that. But how did you decide how far to go? Was it mostly like stick it to what Sega did but fix all their mistakes, or did you decide to, like, because you did fix the Master System support, which was really appreciated?
Yeah, I basically wanted to make it like it would originally have been,
Mhm.
without too much extra stuff on. Um, so originally it was, yeah, originally the idea was just transplant everything and leave it at that. Um, we did find at one point the kind of simple looking fix for the master system, which is one chip that multiplexes a couple of signals, depending if it detects if it's a master system game or not. Um, so I was like, oh, why not? Why not add it? It's
Right.
simple enough. If it doesn't work, I can leave it out. Why not try it? Um, so that was one thing I wanted to fix. The power supply issue was another. It's like, well, I'm not going to have one board with like two power input jacks, right? That doesn't make any sense. Both these things run at the same voltage.
Mhm.
So that was originally I was just going to sort of use similar to what was on the original, and Zexar came to my rescue again. He's a dab hand at designing power supplies, so he made this little section, which I think later on that became what is now the buzzkill. So you can install a very similar design power supply into an original 32X, and it
Mm,
will clean up the signal. Um,
that's
uh,
awesome.
yeah, but it was there's still plenty of requests, and I was The thing is, I'm like, well, this does what I want it to do right now. This is what I wanted to create, and it's open source. If someone wants to come along and add all these features, go ahead.
Mhm.
Stuff like dual frequency oscillators was one of the popular ones.
Really?
And yeah, I was like, oh yeah, why don't you build that in? Why don't you build in a something to disable the 32X, which sounds very simple, but would actually be incredibly complicated.
What would the purpose of that be other than, oh, it would be for people using Mega EverDrive Pro that wants to use Sega
Exactly,
CD, or if
exactly.
you just
Yeah,
want to use the original Virtua Racing?
yeah. That's like I think that's the only two like valid use cases for that. Yeah, yeah. Using the EverDrive CD thing, although that has been shown to work somewhere with what was meant to be a simple modification, but never found like
Really?
the real details about that. Yeah, I'm sure I saw it somewhere, like a video that it was running.
So the Mega SD could do Sega CD from the side port,
Yeah, that's
but
the
not the Mega
difference. Yeah,
EverDrive Pro. I've
yeah.
never found anything to get it to work like that.
No, it was there was definitely it was a hardware modification to the 32X to make it work. So I was assuming it would work in a Neptune as well, but no
Hmm.
details to be found how that actually works.
Oh wow! Well, if anybody's
Mm.
listening and they've done that, please share because that's something I could test here.
It would be a great
But
addition. Yeah, yeah.
I still have my friends here just in case because there's a few other things I wanted to test as well. So he's not in a rush to get it back, so I could still help test any of that stuff too. But
Cool. Oh, and then thanks for testing out the yeah no, all the audio stuff that you did. It was a great thing to watch.
well, that was exciting for me. That was
Mm.
I was just really interested to see how it would perform because there's so many Genesis consoles that have terrible audio.
Mm.
Or model revisions, I
Yeah,
guess is a better way to put it. So yeah,
yeah,
no,
yeah, yeah,
yours
yeah,
was top tier. That was great.
yeah, yeah. It's something I'm not overly worried about myself. It's good to hear that it does work, but I'm not. Yeah, the sound can be quite off before I kind of get annoyed by it. So I'm glad that someone who knew about it took that
Yeah.
upon themselves to check it out properly. You know.
What I found with audio, there are some people with excellent ears that could just immediately know. Just like, before
Mm.
my eyesight started to go, I could walk up to a CRT and tell you
Yeah,
what motherboard revision Super Nintendo was connected to it. It's just
yeah, yeah.
some people have the eyes and ears. But what I found with audio is if you're not too sensitive to it and you played like Green Hill Zone on Sonic on a console that it was off, and then I said, all right, hold on. And I switched consoles and had you play the same level, you'd immediately go,
Mm.
"Oh, wow," but you
Yeah,
wouldn't have known unless you heard one right after the
yeah,
other.
yeah.
So,
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah,
yeah, that's
yeah.
fascinating.
It's like when you can play Sonic as well. It's like if I now hear it in 50 hertz mode, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It's like we put up with this stuff back in Europe. You know, we got the short end of the stick there.
Yeah.
Everything in 50 hertz, but it's how you remember it. It's how you remember it playing it back in the day, and that's been like erased by playing it at 60 hertz, the intended speed. So now going back, it's like, whoa, did we actually play it like this, like so slow? And
Yeah.
yeah,
It's funny though, because I think that same statement could apply to a lot of games that anybody grows up with in any era, especially if it was one of those like you bought the game or you rented it over the weekend and you were stuck with it. So you kind of made the best of it. And then you
yeah,
go back, decades later and go, this was terrible. I can't
yeah,
believe I stuck with it.
yeah. That's it. But you bought the game. You bought the game, right? And with your
Yep.
hard-earned allowance, and that was your game. You were gonna play it to death before you got another one. Yeah.
Yep.
Now it's like you start an emulator, and it's like there's too many games in there. You don't. you can't even choose, and if you do choose, you get through like the first level, and you're like, well, let's go play something else. Well,
Yeah, that is definitely a big issue with all the games dumped in one place.
mm-hmm.
That's one of the reasons why a lot of people I know still collect original cartridges when reasonable, because they like that, like, all right, I'm gonna go get the game that I want to play and stick with it for a little while and kind
Mm-hmm.
of go from there.
Yeah, it's a big tactile thing as well. That you're using the original stuff, the original controllers and everything. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the controller is part of the experience, but I think nostalgia, that's the big deal when it comes to the original consoles or, in the case of the Neptune, the one that you may have wanted but never got.
Yeah.
Like, I think that is a big part of nostalgia. Whereas once you're past the first level of a game, it doesn't matter how much you liked it as a kid. If it stinks, it stinks. And if you like it, you
Yeah.
like it. So,
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great thing coming back when you're older. You've got disposable income. You can buy all this stuff that you wanted to have. And something like the Neptune is like, yeah, I wanted to have that, but you just couldn't. It's like a step on top of that. Yeah.
absolutely. So what are the other projects that you'd worked on? Because I'm pretty sure I remember all of them off the top of my head, but I always end up forgetting one. So I'll let you go
Mm-hmm.
through.
Yeah, we always started with Mega CD, Sega CD. That was the first reproduction I did. PC
And that was the
Engine.
Model 2 Sega CD that you had done.
No, it was Model One.
Oh
Model
wow,
One.
really?
Yeah, I've not done the two actually. Yeah, that's
Hmm.
I don't know if anyone was doing it already. But that was kind of my own need for trying to repair what I had. And it was the oldest, like, hairiest version of the board. It's really quite interesting to look at it at that kind of detail, that you can actually see it like evolving. There's this first production board, which, yeah, it's like they shipped the prototype, and there's like this little extra daughter board on there for the oscillator and stuff, and the wire is hanging out.
So basically, it looked like an official Sega production unit.
That's it. That's it. I was quite glad when I brought the first service bulletin out for the Neptune. You need to add a little wire somewhere. You need to know how to wire. It's like, oh, now it's completely legit. This is it. This is like
Yep.
production Sega stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's cool. So you did that, and then you did the PC Engine, or was it the core graphics that you had done?
PC Engine, what do you call it? Like the original little
Mhm,
white
mhm.
square. Yeah, which is very similar. That was actually Rob Taylor started that off, and I took it over because I'm a big PC Engine fan. He didn't feel like doing it at the time, I don't think. So he did a lot of the groundwork, made some really nice footprints. And then there were schematics for that. No, there weren't. There were schematics for the TurboGrafx, but not specifically for the PC Engine. So there were some minor changes. So I transcribed that over, and then when you start laying the board out, you realize, oh, hang on, that goes a different direction than in the schematic, and it won't let you connect the two things.
Mm.
So that was we now have like complete accurate, well, hopefully accurate schematics of the original PC Engine, and then I reused whatever was applicable from that for. I think the GT was next, Turbo Express, and then reused it again for the Duo, which was a big board. There's a lot of extra stuff on there. But
Yeah.
all the little bits help. All the sort of groundwork from the previous things helped. And at the end of the day, as long as your thing looks exactly the same as the original thing, theoretically, it's going to work. Right? All the wires going in the right direction. And that actually did work. That was I think the first version even worked. There was a few things missing,
Mhm.
as usual. But basically worked. Great
The
times.
duo is really, really important, though, because like you said at the beginning, every duo needs the cap replaced. Period. End of story. That just every one of them has leaking ones, and if you don't realize that,
Mm,
then you're going to turn on your console one day. It's not going to work. You open it up, and your board is basically going to be dissolved from all the
yeah.
the acid of the capacitor fluid. So
Same with the GT. So that's like one of the big motivations for doing this as well, that we can then restore things that have gone too far. But yeah,
How
that's
much of the Duo can be purchased new? Because that was kind of lucky with the Neptune, is that a lot of those components are just off the shelf surface mount components that you could still get. And it's just, Tito showed a great job in his video, which of the proprietary stuff to move over. But what about the Duo? Is there, a ton of stuff that you just can't get anymore?
I don't think there's a whole lot that is completely bespoke to it. Oh no, maybe there's like there's a big ASIC in it. There's
Mhm.
some kind of microcontroller which I think you can get, but it has like onboard mask ROM, and I don't think that's been dumped. I think you'd need to like take the chip and scan the insides to actually get that kind of information out of it. So it's not, you couldn't just get a board and build an original. What's different though with between that and the GT, for example? GT, you've got it's basically the PC Engine, the original circuit plus whatever it needed for batteries and the screen. And there's not a lot of people using the original screen anymore anyway.
Mhm.
Battery circuits, you probably don't want to use like regular batteries. You want some kind of rechargeable solution. So I made the original board to sort of prove that it worked, and our friend Dennis has picked that up, stripped off all the like high voltage stuff for the original LCD and everything, and just put solar points, I think it is, for a modern LCD.
Mhm.
And not only that, he also recreated the entire shell, so you can get that 3D printed now these days as well. The idea being you could take a board, an old PC Engine, just to get like the three main chips out of it, maybe a
Mhm.
couple of other bits. But you could basically build your own handheld from a junk like buy console. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you did the Express consoles as well, right? Not just the GT?
It's basically the same board. I think it's probably exactly the same board even.
Oh,
There's
I
uh
didn't
there's
realize that.
uh there's a couple of little boxes like that they have a check mark in it, like US or Japan.
Huh,
I think
okay.
it's the same. I think it's the same.
Because that's another one that, every one of them is leaking and destroying the board. So that's
Yeah.
kind of this is almost the best possible way going forward for
Hmm.
people that want to use original hardware is to have those. So,
Yeah. 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 And hopefully one day the LT as well. That would be a good one. They're exceedingly rare compared to the rest. If you could
mm.
kind of build one of those from some kind of scrap PC Engine,
The
that would be
LT is
that
the
would be
one
something.
that folds, right?
Yeah, it's like LT. I guess it stands for laptop. It's
Yeah, funny. I think
how I
I'm
thought of it always. I'm not sure if it is, but
That is pretty neat. Yeah, I my coffee hasn't kicked in yet. Sorry, I was for whatever reason I was confusing the GT with the LT or something. So sorry. Yeah,
oh, it's yeah.
still
I get
early for me, but
still confuses me. Yeah, yeah.
so with all the work that you've done on CD consoles, then you did the Sega CD, you did the Duo. One of the things that I see all the time that I sort of understand but also don't is the CD-ROM mechanisms in these things are often proprietary, and it's really hard to get replacements. It's hard to get lasers. In what you've learned in this reverse engineering, is there any way to have some kind of generic, converter to IDE for some of these, so you could basically just get yourself a modern CD-ROM drive and install it in its place? Or is there a lot of stuff on the optical drive boards themselves that prevent that from happening?
Mm. Yeah, it kind of varies the different products. Um, a lot of them use the same physical like mechanisms and stuff like that. And there's kind of off the shelf support chips that run them, and the interface in between is known. So if it would be a hell of a job, I think, but you could with the schematics and the knowledge of whatever protocol these things are talking to each other over. I think someone could go in and like they do with the like the ODE things, like the replacements that run off of a SD card or whatever. it's a similar thing. If you find a level that you know that things are talking to each other, you can emulate that in whatever and interface it to maybe not IDE, maybe that wouldn't be the easiest, but to something kind of off the shelf compared to completely proprietary. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, when it comes to stuff like like even the Neptune, right? If somebody builds one of those and they does it right, there's no reason why it wouldn't last another 30, 40 years. But that's not possible with CD-ROM assemblies, assuming you use them. I mean,
Mm,
even if I guess even if you don't use it, they need to be moved to continue to get
yeah.
lubricated and greased. So it's if you use it once a week,
Hmm.
and that's it. How long is that going to last? Probably not
Yeah.
another 30 years for the original assemblies. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the, one of the things that we're going to start to see, because
Hmm.
I think too we're right at that point where some motherboards are getting destroyed, but we're not quite there yet where all of them are. So all this preservation work that you're doing today, people in the scene appreciate it, but I think 10 years from now, people are going to come back and be like, "Holy crap, this stuff is exactly what we need. All of this would be dead if it wasn't for all, these projects like this." So, it's good that you're getting the jump on it, but I was also curious about the CDs or any optical drive assembly side of
Mm.
things, because you know, uh, optical discs themselves aren't going to last forever, but the ones that are store bought will probably last another 20, 30 years at least, I would think.
And they'll be dumped somewhere. At least the information is not going to be lost or anything. But yeah, it's like anything with moving parts is going to be vulnerable. Basically, yeah. The stuff without it is bad enough. We're already starting to see chips dying off for various reasons. Um, so it's nothing's going to last forever. But
Yeah.
there are like grades. There are grades, right? It's like these things are gonna definitely die before the others. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously I'm a huge fan of ODEs and all of that stuff, but I do, much like we were talking about with, the nostalgia and the cartridges and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I know tons of people that are like, I have my childhood discs. They're all in perfect condition. I take them good, took good
Yeah.
care of them then. I still do now. Why can't I just use it?
Hmm.
And it's, we get the technical reasons why, but the average gamer is just kind of be like, why can't I just buy another CD-ROM drive for it?
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
a fair question, but a much more complicated answer than the average gamer
Mm.
would be able to get without
Yeah.
learning about this stuff. So
Yeah. If
hopefully
you
someday
if
the answer is yes, just buy
yeah
this,
yeah if you look at it from like a PC hardware kind of standpoint, it's like of course, it's like a commodity thing, right? You get a CD-ROM drive. It has a certain shape and a certain interface to it, and it's like they cost nothing. It's like why doesn't this work the same with my
Yeah.
Sega
I
CD
mean,
or whatever?
you could take a PC from the 90s and you could get a brand new SATA drive right now, and you can get a SATA to IDE converter, and everything works
Yeah.
exactly like it would have back then, probably just a little bit faster on the CD reading side of things. And so
Yeah.
it's, it stinks that it's not that easy for game consoles.
Yeah. Yeah. But they're all they were all made to their price point as well, and it's some of them are whatever was good at the time, and it just doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. So, out of these awesome projects that you've done, are there any others that you're aiming to do? Are there ones that like, oh, I'd love to tackle this or that, or are you just kind of at the moment like, I've done enough, let me take a breather here?
Some of that, but there's also some. I'm a sucker for unreleased consoles. So there was like
Hmm.
right the Neptune. I got kind of wind of the Neptune from videos and the new like the reproduction case
Mhm,
made
mhm.
by Divisix. Um, this is it scratches some kind of itch to be able to like recreate stuff like that. So the one I still want to do is the what would you call it? The Nintendo PlayStation, I guess. It's
I was just thinking that, yeah.
yeah. So like the Super NES with the built-in CD-ROM drive, which never got past the prototype phase. Um,
So You, if you wanted to, you could do that a couple of ways. We could, I could make some calls and try to get you that original to reverse engineer, but you could also just do it from a physical standpoint where, it's going to look the same. It's going to have Super Nintendo hardware, but you could do some kind of MSU1 implementation. You could even just add the same FPGA that's on
Hmm.
the FX pack on there,
Yeah.
and it would take quite a bit of work. I'm oversimplifying this. Any FPGA dev that's listening is going to be want to jump through and strangle me right now for saying this, but it is absolutely possible that an
Yeah.
FPGA engineer could program just a standard CD-ROM drive
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
that you have an MSU1 hack with all of the music with the ROM on it. You put the disk in, it loads it up, it saves the ROM
Yeah.
to the FPGA, and then it plays it exactly as if you were playing a CD. So, because recreating the original Nintendo PlayStation chip for chip would be amazing, but also you can't use it because there were no games for it.
There is absolutely no reason to do it. But
Yeah.
well,
But you could do it with MSU1.
yeah, like other than I want to have one.
Yeah.
I can do it. Yeah, theoretically, then it's not the yeah, not everything is available.
Mm.
But there is a lot of it is sort of a lightly modified Super Nintendo, different audio and video circuitry, and I think Sony added to it, and all the CD stuff. And we know how the CD stuff works because we have the BIOS.
Mhm.
There was some work looking into that. Actually, a long time ago, disassembled the whole thing. So it's like we have detailed files. This is we can figure that all out. The whole protocol between like the Super Nintendo side and the interface with the CD drive. It's all figured out. So you could like ODE style. You could totally emulate that and just have a different board that has the same functionality. It will work, or MSU on a CD, that kind of thing. But I was like, nah, I want to get as close as possible to the original, and then if that all works, yeah, sky's the limit. You can cut whichever pieces out you want to replace them with, well, whatever you like, and build whichever version like in between that you wanted. Yeah.
Yeah. That does sound like a lot of fun. And it just, there's always somebody, probably many people listening that's going to be like, that's dumb. Why would you just get an FX Pack Pro and play all these games?
Yeah.
But I think the majority of people listening would at least understand the cool factor of that. Like, how neat would it be for people that grew up? Like, I remember arguing with cousin Scott when I was like 11 years old about how, the Super Nintendo CD is probably going to be better than the Sega CD, and here's why. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's one of those things that'd be really fun to just have, like, to do a demo like that to show it.
Yeah. Yeah. Just to have it working. I think there's someone already did it. Actually, someone took a Satellaview, the
Mhm.
Japanese satellite TV interface thing that they had. You could download games over it and stuff. Someone took that and cut a hole in it and made put a front-loading CD-ROM drive in it. And
Hmm.
I think they did some FPGA stuff in between to make it all work together. So I think that's actually already been done.
Hmm. I'm not aware of that one.
Hmm, it's out there somewhere.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
yeah. Yeah, but I'm more like I want to have like as close to the original thing as it would have been. Not that not that the thing that we would have got would have actually been anything like this. Probably, it would just the prototype has a certain look to it and a certain design, and they probably would have changed a bunch of stuff because it wasn't really on top of the regular Super Nintendo. It didn't add very much at all, really. This
Yeah.
was the special cartridge had a bunch of extra memory in it for like it would load the stuff from the CD into the cartridge and run it from there.
Mhm.
But yeah, all the plans we heard about having faster processors and stuff, and that wasn't happening when they were doing the prototype.
Yeah. There's also that prototype floating around of the other Saturn, the Saturn 2 or 3 or whatever it is. Although that's another one where I'm not really sure what you would accomplish from that other than just having a motherboard and a case that runs
Mm.
Saturn games that looks different.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess there's no like exclusive software for it.
Right. Yeah.
There is for the Nintendo PlayStation. There's a couple of games been written specifically for it. So there are exclusive titles,
Oh, like homebrew games, you
like
mean?
homebrew, yeah,
Oh, okay.
much newer than the thing. If there was it would be cool if there was some if someone discovered like work in progress kind of CD titles somewhere, you know. But
That would be, yeah.
I don't think anything's showed up anywhere so far. No.
But I think that's one of the things about the Neptune board you did that's so important is that the stuff that we're kind of just pontificating about here is fun and awesome. But anybody that's owned a 32X, I would say 50% of people that own a 32X have the same problems I do, where sometimes they just don't work at all. And sometimes they don't work with original games, but they work with a ROM cart. Sometimes it's vice versa. So
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
having a Neptune where it just works, so that's, that's a big deal. You don't just get that cool thing that you wanted as a kid. You don't just get a piece of history that could have been. You actually have something that works the way it's supposed to. So that's kind of a big
Yeah,
deal.
it's like at least theoretically more reliable. There's all these everything that plugs into something else. You have like the like with the NES, you always had to blow in the cartridge. Now you've got two things to blow into to check if it's that, and then all the wires coming out the back for the video to go through, and
Yeah.
there's a lot more to go wrong.
Yeah,
Um,
well, it's definitely more reliable than any of the 32Xs I've ever owned. I didn't have one as a kid, but I bought one like right when I started RetroRGB, and none of them ever really worked right. The only thing that helped was when Greg from Laser Bear made those 3D printed cases that made it sit inside like a Genesis 3 or a CDX or any of that stuff. It made it sit a little more snug, so you'd get the less freezes when
mm,
it shifted. But other than that, I mean, it just even an original Genesis one or with the original adapters, it doesn't matter. It just it was never
yeah,
reliable for me.
yeah. There was one that fitted in pretty well, and there was one that had like the little kind of skirt thing. I don't know, and
Yep.
everyone loses that. The first
And
thing to go must.
sometimes you would have to use that termination thing on the side if you didn't have a Sega CD
Oh
plugged
yeah,
in. Other times you
yeah.
wouldn't. That could have been part of it as well. I could have just forgot to do that at some point.
Mm, and that's and then you start getting into sort of the revision differences in because there was the thing was around for a long time. Of course, Model 1, Model 2. There's like I don't know. There's a whole page somewhere. It's probably like altogether 20 different revisions or something
Hmm.
over them all.
Yeah.
So and they all have their own little quirks and kind of fixes and service bulletins and
And each one they were trying to cut cost a little bit more. So you have stuff
yeah,
that's more efficient, stuff that's
yeah.
less efficient. So
And it didn't always, they wanted to keep compatibility, but they didn't always manage to keep
yeah.
quite enough of it. Yeah, in some cases. Yeah.
Even back in the day, people with Zenith TVs, Nick from HD Retrovision, he tells that story a lot about how his Genesis just didn't work, and you had to have it sent
Yeah.
back to have a fix, the Zenith fix for it. So,
Xenothings. Wow.
yeah. Have
Yeah.
you ever taken a look at the CDX?
I'm not sure I've even like seen one in real life.
It is
Was
so impressive. Like it just
mm,
and maybe part of this is just starry-eyed kid staring at the picture in a magazine and never seeing one in person and then finally getting one years later. Maybe that's part of it, but to
mm,
this day when I see one of those, it just looks like such a beautifully designed Genesis. It's just as small as can be. Everything fits right in there perfectly, and
yeah.
they had a couple of flaws. The CD tray will scrape up against the board, so you just got to put like a piece of non-conductive tape on that to help. And the power rails, the power board that connects to the main board would sometimes fray back. So if you open it up and you don't replace the wires, or if you're not very careful, it could short the whole thing out. There's a couple of flaws, but they were generally pretty decent over the period of time that they existed.
Mm. Yeah, I guess it wasn't very long. They would be sort of introduced right when the kind of that generation of console was on its way out. Mm.
Yeah, I
But
do love how they
yeah.
also tried to make it like, oh, and if you put batteries in it, you could also use it as a CD player. Like, what kid is going to spend that like 2 grand of today's money to go and like have a video game console that you're just going to throw in your backpack and bring to
Uh-huh.
school while you're
Uh-huh.
listening to
Yeah.
CDs? Like, absolutely
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. I'm
So,
pretty sure it didn't come with a belt clip either. It's,
no.
no.
Yeah, that's another fun one. It's always the stuff that you think about, like the what ifs. Like, what if you did
Mm.
a Neptune board, but it was actually a CDX2, and then you figure out how to get a CD-ROM drive in there, and then you just put a hinge in the case so that you could have that. There's lots of fun things to always think about.
Hmm.
But the practicality of it always comes back to, what's the
Yeah,
purpose of that?
yeah,
You
yeah. I think it could be done. There's nothing impossible about reproducing the whole thing if you can get the parts. And
Yeah.
enough and one to take apart and scan and trace and everything. Although, I was talking to a guy yesterday, and it seems like we're going to be made redundant pretty quickly. I was talking to a guy yesterday who is able to scan complete boards
Hmm.
and with a lot of clever software automatically trace all the traces and build the entire board like one to one in KiCad, and
Wow.
even generates like a schematic like the starting point of a schematic, a working schematic and netlist. That obviously it takes effort. It's a lot to ask of a computer to make that look readable. Let's be honest, it's a lot to ask for a lot of people to make a schematic look readable.
Yeah.
You've seen some before. So there's stuff to happen there, but that's and it would in any case like dramatically cut down the time needed to do this kind of stuff and like remove some of the tedium. Which I don't know. Some people like that. There's no there's nothing wrong with sitting down and relaxing with a picture of a PCB and just drawing lines on it. It's a surprisingly relaxing thing to do.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see it's like the that Zen moment of just kind of being in there and figuring out what to do, and I definitely could see that part of it. But yeah, I guess just being a tech nerd my whole life and working in hardware for 25 years now or something like that. When I hear things like that, I get excited, but I'm also very skeptical because it never
Oh
works
yeah,
exactly the way they say it would right
yeah.
off the bat.
Yeah, I was like, I heard about it, and my first impression was, oh, right, so it makes basically a drawing of the couple
Mhm.
layers and maybe the silk screen, and it'll give you if it's really fancy, it could analyze where the points connect and generate the netlist for you. But yeah, it went a lot further than that. It's very impressive.
Wow. And is this stuff that's out there now that's like stuff people could use, or is this just somebody that contacted you about a project or?
Um, I'm not sure how much of that is available yet. To be honest, it was new to me. Like I only heard about it this week, but
Hmm.
I think it's coming. I think it's coming.
That is very cool. Well, I'll keep an eye out for that. That's for sure. I mean, at that point, it's like, I guess you could, in a good way, just kind of go overboard at that point, right? You could just try to find, stuff that isn't even that retro and be able to
Hmm.
repair it a little bit different. So, yeah,
Yeah, it's like the cost of doing it would be so low. It's like, well, yeah,
yeah.
why not? Yeah,
I'm interested to see. I would love to see a demo of that and to see the final product because when I first hear that all that stuff, all I think about is like auto route and these kind of like KiCad programs. Like, oh yeah, I'm just
yeah,
gonna throw
yeah.
my thing and press auto route and it's gonna do it for
Uh-huh.
me. Like, no, no.
Yeah, yeah. I always say I don't use it. I'm perfectly capable of making a complete mess of the board myself. I don't need a computer to do that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So out of all the stuff that you made, do you have like one favorite one that one thing that you're most proud of? I mean, obviously, the
Hmm.
Neptune one got the most buzz, but is there one that really stands out?
Yeah, this is probably the biggest one. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah, and like you said, it's the one that got the most attention. It's probably not. I mean, the other stuff is probably like you say, it's more historically important because it's
mm,
documenting stuff. Some stuff comes out that we didn't know before. We get schematics for consoles that we didn't have before. We might not know what everything does, but you can figure out the rest later. Um, so different things have different kind of values, and yeah, I think Neptune is like the popular one that kind of pushes a lot of buttons, but the rest of the stuff, which is a bit lower key, maybe, yeah, I'm glad I did that as well. It's
Yeah,
so yeah, I
absolutely.
think it's useful, and it's really great to hear from people like, oh yeah, I managed to fix my machine because of these schematics, because of this board. It's a
Yeah.
different kind of satisfaction you get than someone yeah, who's just a fan of the Neptune and wanted to have a Neptune since they were a kid or something.
True. Yeah. I mean, I think those are equally important. You got on a Nintendo hoodie. I mean, we talked about the Nintendo
Yeah.
PlayStation, the original NES and SNES have already been done, but have
Mm.
you looked into the other ones? Like, have you looked into N64? And that seems like a way. It seems like a very complicated thing to tackle.
I don't know if it is. I don't know if it is. It's everything kind of gets smaller scale, so it's yeah, it's probably more challenging to put the things together, but
Mhm.
it's not crazy. I think on some of the stuff on the 32X was already like very fine pitch surface mount stuff. I don't think Nintendo 64 would necessarily be more difficult. You start
Mhm.
getting into sort of more modern hardware that's probably more sensitive to how it's handled. There's you were saying before about interference, and if you look at an old like the original Mega CD revision, the main board
Mhm.
is like it's a complete mess. It's it works, and you're like, well, yeah, it works because it's all running like within certain parameters. It doesn't have to run at a very high frequency, particularly. Um, it doesn't. It's not really. There's going to be a whole bunch of interference, but it's not critical. It's not going to stop the thing from working.
Mhm.
As you start getting towards more modern stuff, then that becomes more and more important. So certain parameters of how you design the PCB and stuff, that's going to come more and more into play. So that would make it more challenging that way.
Mhm.
But it's also it's kind of the cutoff that I like impose upon myself. It's like the golden age of 2D gaming moving into 3D gaming. It was like it's where it seems like it's not. I mean, everyone has their own definition, I know, but it's like it's not really retro for me. It's like this is when it became modern, kind of that era. But it's still an interesting console and sort of the whole generation as well, like the early 3D stuff. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind doing it. I don't know if they're particularly affected by capacitors and stuff. That was very much sort of a 90s thing. The bad batches, that badly designed capacitors, stuff like that.
Yeah,
Um,
not as much. That's the type of thing where the advantage you get wouldn't really be motherboard repair. It would be you could integrate boardies, open source FPGA on there, so
mm,
you can get HDMI and RGB out. You could, have Zaxor work on a power supply, so that way,
yeah.
everything's built right onto the motherboard, and you would just have, a plastic piece that goes in back with a generic barrel connector or something. I mean, you could do stuff like
Mm,
that. But I don't think at the moment, at least, there's a need to repair or fix anything
yeah.
or solve an issue. But you certainly could make one board with a lot of the stuff already integrated in, and then it just comes down to what's harder: taking an
Mm.
N64 and adding all of these mods to it, or transplanting the chips, which chip transplanting is pretty hard. So
And yeah, you get used to it. You get used to it. You know what would be cool though, like the 64DD, the disk drive thing.
yeah,
Some kind of like hardware, maybe that's there, or maybe it already exists, but some kind of like hardware thing, that you could actually use. Maybe not. And I think the disk drive itself is proprietary. There is probably based on something like the FDS was. It was based on an existing thing, but um, yeah, something like that would be cool. Some accessory that you can't. I mean, if you wanted to buy one now, crazy money. If you could,
yeah,
because the same guy who did the GT shell did the shell for the 64DD as well.
hmm.
So with some, I don't know how much is known about how those two things talk to each other, but with some knowledge, you could definitely build like a hardware solution that runs the DD games.
Hmm. I don't know. That seems pretty interesting. I would wonder what the media would have to be like. Would it just be an SD card then, and run it like you would
Mm.
EverDrive, or
Yeah,
would you
I
put
guess.
on the
Yeah.
floppy?
Yeah, and saying that, you also, I think you can emulate it in a cartridge as well, right? There are flash cartridges that run
I believe so.
CD
Yeah, 'cause
games.
I don't know. I don't remember what the limitations were.
Mm,
I don't know if it was one of those cases where it was done on a flash card, but there's a trade off or something, or maybe it is perfect
mm,
hardware emulation. I honestly don't remember, but yeah, I don't know. That'd be a very cool one. You're right. That's an
yeah,
interesting one that we never got over here.
yeah. Because if you look at the like the Super Nintendo, for example, the port on the bottom that would interface to a CD if it was
Mhm.
ever if it ever came out or worked for the Super Famicom and the Satellaview, the same pins come out the top in the cartridge port. So
Hmm.
you don't have to like have it in a particular place in the system at all. It's all linked through. So yeah, if the N64 works the same way, then yeah, you could totally just run it from the cartridge, which is not, yeah, that's the exact difference with the 32X and the CD, right? That's it's not going to work through there.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's the one thing I do have to look back and try to find any trace of is what you were talking about earlier about the some kind of mod, a switchable mod. I'm assuming that allows the Mega EverDrive Pro to boot into CD mode or something like that. That would certainly, you know,
Mm.
I think Crick said something along the lines of he would have to rewrite the entire firmware for it to be usable on a side adapter, kind of like the Mega SD. So
I
he
think
didn't feel like that was on the
that's
cards.
I think that's it, because there's certain things with certain address lines, I think, that are there's a certain address space is not available in one place or the other. This is the technical limitation, as far as I understood. Um, but that's exactly how the Mega SD is it that works, because it knows where it's plugged in. It knows it's plugged into the side and not in the top, so it can adapt itself to work in a different way. So
Mhm.
that's it would, to get it working properly. That was it's gonna be a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, it's still an awesome project, and it's still something I think is a lot of fun. So I'm glad you did it.
I mean, you can plug in an original.
Yeah.
We're doing, if you're gonna have well, not original, it's original hardware in a unoriginal form.
Hmm.
Well, have an original CD as well. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So, was there anything that I forgot to mention? Any of your projects, or anything that you wanted to talk about that had slipped my mind here?
I don't think so. No, nothing springs to mind really. No. This is the state of affairs right now. So hopefully, the stumbling block I had on the Nintendo PlayStation thing, I think, is being resolved now. There
Hmm.
was some work to do to get a bit of programmable logic for some mystery chip. To replace this mystery chip that it's not clear how it works at all. And that was, yeah, I just wasn't able to figure that out. And there were some obstacles. Just these days, it's like finding parts that are going to work. The whole switch away from 5 volts makes everything a little bit more difficult. And there are well known ways around that, but it's still like extra hassle.
Yeah.
So when you start moving to CPLDs, FPGAs, and stuff like that, it's always like another factor you have to take into account. And there's still some that'll run at 5 volts. Thankfully, makes it a lot easier. But still, figuring that out, how that works, is a challenge. And I think once that's done, there's going to be a hell of a lot of work on software. Well, firmware, if you like. There's a microcontroller in there as well,
Hmm.
that did all the CD stuff, and that was another one of these. You can. It had a mask ROM in it with certain code.
Hmm.
No idea if you had access to a prototype, if you could even get that out.
Hmm.
Probably not. And there is actually still you can buy a version with a little window in it, like an EEPROM. But there is an EEPROM in it, so you could potentially get the same microcontroller and write or replace the software. Didn't find any kind of tool chain for it or anything. So I think the way forward will be just to replace that with a modern microcontroller and figure out the rest. Just like emulate the rest, basically.
That would just be a ton of fun to see, like a working
Yeah.
legit Nintendo PlayStation with software to go with it.
Yeah. And there's a little LCD screen on there as well. I was kind of hoping. There's a little thing, like you have, and that's where I was looking. Like you have on a Discman. It's like the little tiny screen with like the time counter and like shuffle and stuff like that. And it looks like the one on the prototype was a bespoke thing. They spent a lot of money on it. If you look at like the case, for example, just all injection molded, all like pretty fancy mechanisms and stuff inside. They weren't cutting any corners. So I wouldn't be surprised if they thought, oh yeah, we'll just make our own little LCD as well. And you can get them done. You can get them done. There's places that will make new ones for you for a price, of course. But
yeah, but what you're talking about, an LCD readout screen for a 90s CD player is different. It's not like a custom LCD for a handheld console that's going to run at 60 hertz and be, have a certain amount of colors and all that stuff. So yeah, it's a wildly different price point there. You can probably get one for reasonable.
Yeah, you'd hope so, huh? Yeah, the little monochrome silver back things, that we all know. Yeah. Or you replace that with a little OLED screen. That's like the running theory right now is it'll probably be simpler.
Yeah, and also awesome. So why not, right?
Yeah, good enough. Good enough. Yeah. It's a very minor detail to obsess about, but cool. That's not stopped anyone before, right?
No, sometimes it's some of the most fun parts of this. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to have this chat. And of course, thank you for all your work. I mean, like I was saying before, I think as time goes on, the importance of the preservation that you're doing is going to start to be a little bit more noticed as these things start to die more and more. People are going to be going to your boards and your work in order to repair them. So thank you very much for everything.
It's great. I love doing it. So any kind of bonus, anything else, if it's usable for someone else, it's like a bonus for me. It's like, I'm just glad that it's out there and that people can find it and use it and that it's helpful to someone.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. I'll leave links to your social media and of course the projects and Tito's videos that have covered all of your work. And this was a lot of fun. So thank you very much, Steve.
No worries. Anytime. Thank you too.